Marz, it's going to be on you for round one. And the first topic of the PCL round of 16 playoffs is who is the better sidekick, Jamal Murray or Tyrese Maxey? Marz, your time will start when you start.
I think you got to start with the pressure they both put on defenses, because I think what makes, for me, the most valuable thing you can do on offense is create advantages and then also continue advantages. Tyrese Maxey's relentlessness and ability to get downhill is something that Jamal Murray lacks, and that's why he puts a lot more pressure on defenses in terms of coming off dribble handoffs. So just his speeds and attack, able to collapse defenses and kick out. Surprisingly, on doing research for this, Tyrese Maxey led the league in hockey assists. And the reason he does that is because of the amount of pressure he puts on defenses and putting them in rotation, where that gets the Sixers a lot of open shots. That's something Jamal Murray doesn't really do, because he operates a lot more in the mid-range. And we know just statistically, the mid-range is the least efficient shot in the game. And if teams aren't really going to collapse their defense to deal with that threat, you don't put the defense in rotation as often as Tyrese Maxey does. So Tyrese Maxey just operates on areas of the floor that just put more of an onus on defenses to have to rotate and scramble and create open looks for himself and his teammates. That also goes to his speeds, just him being so dangerous downhill off the dribble handoffs and stuff. That's like a perfect complement to not only Embiid, but just offenses in general. When you have someone who makes decisions as quickly as Tyrese Maxey does, it doesn't take away from anyone else. While Jamal Murray might probe and pound the ball a bit more, Tyrese Maxey does everything so quickly, and it puts defenses on the back foot, and that's why I think he's so dangerous. And that's something I don't think Jamal Murray can really live up to. He's more of an isolationist, takes more time, whereas I think Tyrese Maxey is constantly putting pressure on defenses in a way that Jamal Murray just simply can't match up to. So that's why I think he's the better sidekick.
Jack, round one, talk to us, my friend.
I think you see the shot he makes in this year's playoffs and the hype real, but what Jamal Murray has shown us over the course of his career, and more specifically in the playoffs, he has been the reason at times for why Denver has succeeded. It's obviously a team game, but we put all this love and spotlight to Nikola Jokic, when in reality, you got to look at Jamal Murray as a guy who puts this team over the hump title. I asked myself the question of, how did Denver just win this title? Because, yeah, Jokic is great. All the MVPs are one thing, but we always talk about who's the better big man in the game. And Jokic has the vote right now. But between Embiid and Jokic, what's kind of the separator in that argument? I think the separator is what Jamal Murray brings to the table, which will then make Nikola Jokic look like a better basketball player than Joel Embiid. But a lot of the times I look at Embiid as a more dominant, better basketball player. So then you're like, well, why does Philly not win? And then Denver wins the title a year ago? Because of Jamal Murray. It's a Jamal Murray thing. And when you look back a few years ago to when Steph Curry took out the Nuggets in round one, they're a first round exit without Jamal Murray.
There you have it. Marz, it's time for round two.
Before I get into my point, I want to make sure everyone understood what was just said. Jack just spent a minute and a half saying, because I think Embiid's better than Jokic, that must mean Denver wins because of Jamal Murray. That's what just happened. So just make sure you guys kept track of that. That's what just happened.
Yes, that's what I said.
I just want to make sure we're all aware. No, you're good. But yeah, I think both of these guys operate in terms of the actions they run very similarly in terms of like the dribble handoffs and stuff, but they both use them very differently. Jamal Murray will use them to try to get to the elbow and get to jumpers, or he'll find Jokic in the pocket where Jokic will start throwing lobs to people and whatever. But Tyrese Maxey, back to my first point, he uses that dribble handoff as a runway to get downhill. And we all know the most dangerous thing you can do in the half court is probably put pressure on the rim. Tyrese Maxey just being relentless in doing that is something that Jamal Murray just doesn't match up to. Also, Tyrese Maxey being such a capable catch and shoot player is something that I think gets slept on a lot. He shot 42% on a half, 42.5% on spot up threes this year. But he also, what's more dangerous instead of just catching and shooting threes is the leverage you have with that. And Tyrese Maxey's ability to attack closeouts. And then once again, I'm going to keep harping on this. Getting downhill is something Jamal Murray just doesn't match up to. Jamal Murray shoots 39% on all twos after attacking the closeout. because he just doesn't have the leverage to get inside and finish and attack defense in the way that Tyrese Maxey does, who shoots 47% in those situations. That's why I think Tyrese Maxey is the more valuable player. He just attacks on more valuable spots on the floor as opposed to what Jamal Murray does.
All right, Jack, your time will start when you do.
That's fair. I mean, I think what Maxey does, his ability to put insane amounts of pressure on the defense right when you step on the court. He shoots the ball from very deep. But I look at Jamal Murray's game, I look at it as something that I can rely on. And although I could maybe say I could rely on Tyrese Maxey in this current moment, I think what we've seen out of Jamal Murray is a better sample size. And ultimately, I'm going to go back to the duo aspect of all of this because it is a team game. And I think whoever you get drafted for, that's what you get. You get what you get. And you don't get upset. And I think when Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are on the court together, they are, other than Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, the best duo in the NBA. See, and for Joel Embiid, it's never been about them as a duo. I'm sorry, but respectfully, Joel Embiid has been better without a Tyrese Maxey. Joel Embiid has been a better version of himself at times when Maxey was not necessarily the best version of himself this season. But I brought up a few years ago when Jamal Murray was not on the court against the Golden State Warriors. Jokic, he was fine. He was decent. He was dominant. There was a reason why Denver won the title. And it was because they had as Jamal Murray. There you have it.
Yo, Jack, you kind of going in and out a little bit. So if you could fix that, that'll probably, bode a little more well for you throughout the rest of the battle. Marz, round 3 of this first topic. Let's hear it.
He said Jamal Murray's more reliable, but then I guess I got to pose the question. How reliable are you if we can't rely on you to be there? A big part of your argument is that they lost without Jamal Murray in the playoffs and then they won with him. But the fact that he's not there in the playoffs diminishes your value as a sidekick. Tyrese Maxey, I can trust he's going to be available. Jamal Murray, I mean, this past postseason, you're going to say he was hurt. The year before, the 2023, he missed the playoffs. 2021, he wasn't there. Like, how reliable of a sidekick are you if I can't even rely on you to be there in the playoffs? Tyrese Maxey, I know he's going to be there. So, I mean, that just automatically gives him an edge. But once again, back to the dangerous spots on the floor, Tyrese Maxey has a better floater game statistically, and in the playoffs is just much better. 43% in the regular season, 47% in the postseason. Jamal Murray was 36% and then 32% in the postseason. And then once again, like I keep harping on, creating easy opportunities on the most dangerous parts of the floor. Transition. Tyrese Maxey is one of the most dangerous transition guards in the NBA. Being able to get easy opportunities, especially in the postseason when defenses tighten up, being able to maximize those opportunities. Tyrese Maxey is one of the best guards in the league at that, whether that's in the regular season with 1.25 points per possession or in the postseason where it's 1.17 points per possession. Jamal Murray is at 1.06 points per possession in the regular season and 0.96 in the postseason. He's not making the most of his transition opportunities. He's not making the most of when he attacks closeouts. He's not making the most of floater range. He's not making the most of playing off other people. He's not making the most of attacking the paint. He's barely ever available. Maxey clears.
All right, Jack, round 3. Talk to us.
I don't know how the quality is, the audio is right now.
You good? It sounds good.
Well, I think to wrap up this Jamal Murray versus Tyrese Maxey debate, to me, it's about winning. To me, it's about what you've done and then what you're going to do in the future and kind of having that little prediction of the future. But take the future out of this. What Jamal Murray has done, he's one of the greatest second options of all time, period. And Tyrese Maxey has just stepped into the league. And although aggressive to the pick and roll out of Jamal Murray, the way that he's able to work with a big man, in my eyes, he benefits Jokic. He helps Jokic more than Tyrese Maxey helps Joel Embiid. I feel like they don't work as well together. And that has more to do with what Jamal Murray does than what Jokic does. Because Jamal Murray is a facilitator. He finds a way to create offense as a scorer. I get that both of them do that. But then when it all translates to winning, I'm not going to see Tyrese Maxey do shit against the ball or anybody. And, in a year where you're expecting Philadelphia, everyone's injured. Obviously, Embiid was struggling with injuries, but he always does. In a year where you expected Philadelphia to make a run in the playoffs, they did. Yeah, he hit a big shot. He also struggled at times. I understand somebody that struggled during these playoffs, but when Murray was there to play, they were a better team, and it was very obvious that they benefit due to the play of Jamal Murray.
Okay, that is the conclusion of topic 1. Who's the better sidekick? On to the second topic. Who's the better point guard? Ja Morant or Jalen Brunson? It will be on you first, Jack. Talk to us.
Well, I think if you look statistically at how each point guard has led their team, and more specifically each of their best, the team as a player, whatever you want to say, Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies were a number 2 seed. They obviously lose to Golden State, who then goes on to win the title that year. Ja gets hurt in that series, but that series, the previous series, and seeing Anthony Edwards versus Ja Morant. And at the time, it was popular that Ja Morant was the better player than Anthony Edwards. And I think nowadays, like, everyone talks about Anthony Edwards, Ja Morant goes through a bunch of stuff, gets injured, and kind of finds his way not necessarily on the talk shows and in the media every single day. And it became an Anthony Edwards spotlight. And I think people just tend to forget and use the recency bias of it all. And I know this isn't an versus Ja Morant debate, but at a few years ago, Ja Morant was considered a top 10 player in the league. I don't think Jalen Brunson has been considered a top 10 player in the league ever. And if you want to say he is, you're wrong. If you want to say he's a top 5 point guard, you're wrong. I look at Ja Morant and his ability as a basketball player as a unicorn. Ja Morant is a unicorn. On the other hand, he's a good player, but at times he's a liability. Morant is a superstar and he jumps out the gym, whereas Jalen Brunson.
All right, Jack, that's the conclusion of your round. He just cooked up on Marz. Let's see if Marz can rebuttal for topic 2, round 1. Talk to us.
Friendly word of advice: you might want to not use half your time talking about Anthony Edwards. Just pointer. But I want to start with just talking about the impact both of these guys have on their teams. Obviously, we both know they're both spearheads in great offense, and neither one of them are going to provide much value on defense. And obviously, the Grizzlies had the worst offense in the league this season, and Ja missed basically the whole year. So you can point to that and be like, Ja has tremendous offensive impact, and I would agree with that. But what I find more interesting is that the Knicks this year had the number 7 ranked offense, but with Jalen Brunson on the court, they had the equivalent of the number 2 ranked offense, only behind the Boston Celtics. But then when he was off the floor, they had the equivalent of the 28th ranked offense in the NBA. Now, technically, that is still worse than that's still better than what the Grizzlies offense was this year. But then when you look at the fact that Jalen Brunson has a 14-point differential offensively, and Ja Morant only had a 3-point differential his last healthy season in 2022, you start to notice that one guy is probably impacting his team's offensive chances a bit more than the other, despite the fact both teams aren't great offensively without them. So I think that's where I got to start with it, just saying Jalen Brunson is clearly, I think, the more impactful offensive player. You saw it this season when he had to be thrust into that heliocentric role, his ability to floor raise that offense to levels that, frankly, Ja Morant's never been able to do with Memphis. Memphis have never been to the level of offense that the Knicks were with Jalen Brunson on the court this year. I know they were a top 5 offense, but when the difference is as negligible as it was with him on and off the court, that's not because of him. Jalen Brunson is carrying the Knicks to a top 7 offense, as told by the fact they're number 28 without him.
Jack, round 2. Let's do it. Hold on, Jack. Hold on.
Are we good now?
Yeah, you ready to go?
I'm going to bring it back to Anthony Edwards. We're going to talk about Anthony Edwards the entire time again. No, I'm actually going to talk about the Boston Celtics. And I'm going to say that if Ja Morant was on the New York Knicks and Jalen Brunson was not, you took him off the team. So you go Ja Morant on the Knicks, playing against the Celtics in 2024, 2025. Give me the New York Knicks. I'm going to take the New York Knicks in that series. If Ja Morant was on the New York Knicks and Jalen Brunson was not on that team, they would beat the best team in the NBA in the Boston Celtics. What Ja Morant is a superstar. If I want a point guard, I'm going to take Morant over Brunson because of the athletic ability, but there's something about star power versus Jalen Brunson is a nitty-gritty point guard, ball handler, can shoot the mid-range game. I want somebody explosive. And I think the Knicks are a really good team at this point in time that if you were to put Morant on there, he would create kind of like an impact outlier role for the Knicks to then beat the Boston Celtics. And respectfully, if you put Brunson on the Memphis Grizzlies, they finish last place again. So, and then you throw Derek White on the New York Knicks, and they're a first place team as well.
Valid points right there. Valid. Marz, what's your rebuttal to that?
Ron is such an enabler. I don't think I need to spend time refuting that. That's cool. But I want to bring up what they actually both do in the playoffs, and somehow Ja Morant would elevate the Knicks over the Celtics or something. Jalen Brunson is what we call in this business of basketball. He's a playoff riser. That's what we know him as. He shows up in the big moments, the killer will, all of those things. But away from just like, oh, he's mentally strong, there's actually tangible reasons for why he is a playoff riser. He dominates in the areas of the court that defenses can't take away in the postseason. Whether that be floater range, whether that just be outside of the restricted area in the paint, those 2-point pull-up jumpers, catch and shoot threes, getting to the line, all of those things he excels at. In the regular season, he shoots 55% on floaters. In the postseason, that's 46%, both of which elite marks, especially when you categorize for postseason defenses. In the paint non-restricted area, he's 53%, and in the postseason, 47%. Once again, both elite marks. He shoots 44% on his mid-range jumpers in the postseason, 44% on catch and shoot threes. He is elite from all areas of the court that defenses can't take away, alongside getting to the line 9 times a game in the postseason. Ja Morant notoriously struggles from a bunch of those areas. In his postseason career, the last postseason, he was just healthy, and he shot 14% on floaters, 29% on 2-point jumpers, and 29% on catch and shoot threes, while shooting 27% in the paint outside the restricted area. Ja Morant is someone who struggles in the areas that defenses can't take away and relies on trying to get to the rim relentlessly. And when that isn't falling for him, you see his playoff efficiency drop. Jalen Brunson, on the other hand, you can't take his efficiencies away. That's why he's the better player.
All right, Jack.
I just think,
on you.
Yeah, I think what as a point guard versus what as a point guard and how a defense game plans for both of those guys. It's harder to game plan for Ja Morant, the freak of nature, versus Jalen Brunson, superstar for the New York Knicks last season. And obviously you get Mikal Bridges this year, and they're a lot better than what they were with a lot of injuries in the playoffs last year to where they are this coming season. But I look at Jalen Brunson and how a defense guards Jalen Brunson. I say, go do your thing. You can score 40 points. That's not going to hurt us if Jalen Brunson goes out there and scores 30 to 40 points. I think it's better if you limit his playmaking ability and you let him score. It's kind of similar to, Luka Doncic. Let him score 37 points, but you have to limit everything else. You have to shut down everybody else. But I think what Ja Morant does and what he can create, a defense, you can't game plan for that. All you can do is hope for the best in front, hope you can throw a few double teams, but it's going to leave other shooters wide open. To me, I would rather have Ja Morant as a point guard leading my team because of what he can do, create. You can't guard him. You can guard Jalen Brunson. If it's not a double team, it's just a length. They're like Jason Tatum.
Unstoppable versus stoppable. I got you, Jack. Marz.
Well, I already explained how you can game plan for Ja Morant. I did that last round, so I'm not going to do it again. But play style wise, I think Jalen Brunson has shown more versatility play style wise than Ja Morant has too. I mean, this year I spoke about already. He got thrust into that heliocentric role because of Julius Randle's injury, and he had like the highest time of possession in the league from that point onwards. And that's a big part of the reason why the Knicks offense was able to stay afloat, number 2 offense in the league with him on the court this year, like I said. But that also translated to the postseason. So this plan of, we just let Brunson score and we're fine. the Knicks had the best offense in the postseason with Jalen Brunson on the floor. So no, it doesn't work. They're one of the best offenses in the league as long as Jalen Brunson is out there. But his ability to play off the ball is something that I think really separates him from Ja Morant. He shot 48.5% on spot threes this year. And then similar to my Tyrese Maxey point, when he attacks the closeout, he's even more dangerous. He shot 66% in those situations. When he would attack a closeout and get downhill for that floater or that pull-up midi, 66% is what he shot. He is elite at playing away from the basketball. It's something we didn't get to see a lot this year because of the fact that he had to monopolize the ball, but he's shown in previous stops and even in the small sample size of this year that he can do that. Like I said in the postseason, 44% on catch and shoot threes. He can do that. Ja Morant is someone who monopolizes the ball out of necessity, not because he can do other things and he has to, because he has to play on the ball because he doesn't shoot catch and shoot threes as well. He shot about 30% on spot threes. He can't really shoot threes out of pick and roll. He's about 36% compared to Jalen Brunson's 44%. He just really lacks in the areas that would allow him to play next to other stars as opposed to what Jalen Brunson provides.
All right, there you have it. That is the conclusion of topic 2. Topic 3, who is the better finisher? LeBron versus Shaquille O'Neal. Marz, it will be back on you, and your time will start whenever you decide to.
This was a hard topic for me because I didn't know how to approach it. So obviously, first thing I did was go to the statistical route. Obviously, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to read off the numbers, but then the next few rounds, I'm going to talk because this one is really, it's hard to gauge in my opinion. So for their best single seasons each, which was surprisingly 2014 Bron and 2001 Shaq, LeBron shot 80% of the rim in the regular season, which is 19% above the league average for that year. And he shot 77% in the postseason, which is 16% above the league average that year. He also shot 74% on layups, and only 47% of his rim field goals were assisted. He also maintained this against top 10 defenses, shooting 78% of the rim, and in the playoffs, 76%. Now for Shaq. He shot 63.5% on his layups. He shot 79% of the rim in the regular season, which is 17% above what the rest of the league was, so slightly below LeBron. In the postseason, he was at 76%, which is still about 15 or so above the league average. So right in line with what LeBron was, while 67% of his were assisted. So from a statistical standpoint, it would appear LeBron more efficient, less assisted, creates for himself more. That would be an indicator of something. But then I can understand the lack of spacing for the era. So I was like, let me look at what LeBron was doing in 2009 and 2010, where he was playing in those double big lineups, less spacing. He was still plus 13% in both of those years, where LeBron wasn't even as refined as he would become. So statistically, even though I was kind of surprised to see these numbers myself, LeBron statistically stands up to Shaq and in fact probably looks better from a pure statistical basis. So I'm curious to see what angle Jack goes with.
Didn't think of that, Marz. All right, Jack, it's on you.
Yeah, the angle I'm going to go with is Shaq 7'1", 325, and he's just, the most dominant figure in the history of sports. I don't know, the most dominant player in the history of basketball. LeBron he's the guy that whenever you ask the question, go get a bucket, who do you want with the ball? You can't, if you say LeBron James, it's hard to debate that. But when you talk about finishing, it's less about efficiency and more just about who can grab the basketball and go dunk. Dominance outweighs any type of efficiency that you could present to me from LeBron James. And yeah, Shaq, from a percentage wise, maybe it's not adding up to LeBron. I think that's more because Shaq he couldn't shoot the basketball. And so around the rim, he was brilliant, but I think some of those numbers are a little, and believe them the way they are kind of presented, just because I think what Shaq did around the rim, it's more dominant, and that's why he's a better finisher than LeBron. And ultimately, I brought up the size at the start, and when you have that type of size, that kind of trumps all in it when he played and today.
Understandable, Jack. Size matters. Marz, round 2.
Yeah, the numbers are true, and it's not factoring in anything outside of 5 feet. It's just rim attempts. So Shaq's inability to shoot isn't really relevant for the numbers. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want me to send you the link to the research I did. I'm not lying about the numbers. But away from the numbers, I think Bron's ability to generate his own shot at the rim is what would give me the edge for him. Like I said, 47% of his assists compared to 67% for Shaq. LeBron's ability to attack from the outside and get all the way downhill while being one of the most physically imposing players we've ever seen for himself, I think just provides more value than someone who is relying on other people to get him the ball. I know Shaq dominated on the inside. He's one of the best finishers ever. I'm not about to try and act like there's just a Grand Canyon between them. These are maybe the two best finishers we've ever seen. But I just think you got to give a bit more respect to someone who can self-generate their looks a bit more. It's like similar to what I said about the Ray Allen, Klay Thompson debate like 4 weeks ago now. The percentages can be similar, or someone can even have the edge in percentages. But if someone is generating their looks a lot more than the other, I think we can overlook some sort of percentage differences. But when the person self-generating their looks is still the more efficient, I think we have to start factoring in that this guy might just be better at that skill. Then I could get to the dexterity and the fact that LeBron James is clearly more comfortable finishing with both hands, clearly has better touch in terms of layups. I alluded to those numbers. Shaq 64%, LeBron 74%. It's not even close. So when it comes to touch, dexterity, body control, self-generation, like it's all pointing one way, and that way is LeBron.
Jack?
I think that, you mentioned LeBron kind of making the shots for himself, self-creating. I think Shaq was really good at that too. And maybe it's because of his size and not necessarily the skill he had, whereas LeBron, it's a skill, it's a strength thing. But to me, his ability down low and the post moves and his post-game mastery was the reason why he's the better finisher in this case. I understand the top of the key and you hand both of them the basketball. LeBron's probably going to get downhill better and he's going to get to the hoop better. But if I want to go get a bucket and I say, hey, Shaq, go on the post and I'm going to just throw Shaq the ball, that's a better option and a better basketball move and a higher percentage shot than anything LeBron could do. And you look at Team USA, for example, what's the first play they do? It's a look to Joel Embiid in the post versus anything from LeBron, KD, Steph. No, Embiid in the post right away because that's the highest percentage shot. And then who's the most dominant at that shot? It's not LeBron. It's Shaquille O'Neal. So therefore, I think Shaquille O'Neal is the best finisher of all time. But like you said, they're 1 and 2.
Round 3. Talk to us, Marz.
Yeah, like I said, I really struggled with this one. I think we're splitting hairs. I also want to just show love. I think Giannis is also in this conversation in terms of what he's been able to do. But yeah, I think for me, it just, once again, it does stick to the self-generation. I do understand the point of Shaq just being able to park himself near the lane. And once you get him the ball, it's pretty much a guaranteed 2 points. I mean, we understand teams were intentionally fouling him as opposed to giving up layups. Like, that's something that we haven't really seen before. But with LeBron, I mean, that's where I think the biggest separator is. Teams tried to foul LeBron too. He just powered through it. Now, so did Shaq. But the consequence was LeBron leading the league in and-ones, converting these and-ones, and just ultimately, I think, being the dangerous threat in that regards. Because you could foul Shaq and you could live to see another day. That wasn't the case with LeBron. So you couldn't foul him. But then if you did foul him, he would probably still finish anyway. As, like I said, he led the league in and-ones multiple times in his career. You very rarely blocked him because he could jump over you, finish around you. That level of body control and dexterity is what I think Shaq doesn't have. Now, he has the physical imposition to just overpower you and make sure you can't get near the ball. But LeBron has that alongside being able to navigate around bodies and being able to swim and go up and under and finish with more finesse than Shaq ever could. So he's got the power game, plus the finesse game, plus the self-generation, plus the efficiency edge. And he's done that in less efficient times where he had to play with too big. So it's not just, he benefited from spacing. He's done it all throughout his career for 20 years.
Topic 3, round 3, Jack. Take us away.
I think the reason why LeBron finishes his and ones, maybe a little better. I don't know if he does, just because Shaq, he's going to the line. He doesn't know what he's going to get out of those foul shots, probably a couple of misses. He's more apt to try and finish it. Whereas, yeah, LeBron, great finisher. But I think in that argument, you got to look at trying to get those 2 points before he gets to the line, and being a finisher with the contact, with the fouls. But, you know, ultimately, you look at LeBron James, you look at Shaquille O'Neal as the two most dominant ever. You bring up Giannis Antetokounmpo, you put and what's the similarity here? Well, Giannis can't shoot either. And if Giannis could ever learn how to shoot the basketball other than just, you know, getting the ball and taking 27 seconds to shoot it, if he actually developed, he would be legendary. And that's something that LeBron James did. He developed a hell of a three-point shot, as a matter of fact. And I think LeBron relies a little more on the three-point shot than maybe even he would want to rely on the three-point shot. Whereas Shaq was always, we all know what Shaq could do best. It's at the rim, ball over everybody. And when you just, the word dominant to me, the first person that comes to mind is Shaquille O'Neal. We don't even have to be talking about basketball.
All right, y'all. That is the conclusion of topic 3. This is what we have for right now. So, topic 1, who's the better sidekick, Jamal Murray or Tyrese Maxey? Marz, you took home that topic 3-0. Let's go. Topic 2, who was the better point guard, John Morant versus Jalen Brunson? With a convincing 3-0 lead. Marz, you also won that topic as well. Let's go. And last but not least, topic 3, who's the better finisher? Pause. LeBron or Shaq? And once again, with a 3-0 lead, Marz, you took that round home as well.
The preparation pays off, man. The preparation pays off. Did 2 separate streams today preparing, so I mean, I had to work hard for this. Yeah, 5 hours in total.
I don't know if this is a yearly thing, but I'll be back if you guys want me back.
I think you're always welcome back. I mean, you know what I think would be fair? Let Jack go against Chill, man. Chill shouldn't get a day off. Let Jack go against Chill.
All right, y'all. That was an amazing first battle. We will be back again for the second battle. You guys stay tuned. Go grab some popcorn, soda, candy, whatever it may be, and we're going to do the same thing all over again.
It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. Yeah, the player choice way. Come and switch lanes into the player choice way.